Hi, I'm Garrow Kettigan. Some of you know me as an interior designer. I dabble in it from time to time. This week, I'm actually the secrets guest on Secrets of a Hostess magazine. So I'm thrilled to share with you my favorite room in my own home. So here we are in New York City. This is my library on Park Avenue. It's a wonderful, intimate little room, and I enjoy this room in the evenings. So this is where I retire at night. And one of my favorite things about this room is that it's so cozy, it's small, but yet I was able to infuse a little bit of glam by painting the room high gloss. So a lot of times people are afraid to paint saturated colors. And one of my greatest secrets to painting a small room is to actually paint both the walls and the trim all one color. It makes the room feel pulled together, and when a room is small, when you have too many color variances, like have contrast of the trim and the walls, it kind of makes it choppy. So this is one of my secrets in this room. So you can see in this beautiful room, I painted this gorgeous blue color, and I painted the crown moldings and the walls all the same color, as well as the trim and the bookcases. And I feel like that was very successful for this small scale room to create a little bit of coziness, intimacy, and allowed me to use a very saturated, deep color. One of the other things that I always do is I always think about my ceilings. And ceilings to me are very important. People always forget that the ceiling is part of the interior design color scheme. So in this room, I contrasted my deep blue color with this beautiful orange tone. These are some of my favorite colors, and you see them coming through in a lot of my projects. So a lot of my work, as you know, I do a lot of color, and I like to layer my color and my spaces together. My spaces, I always feel like I don't want it to look like a decorator was just here. So I like to infuse my interiors with a lot of vintage pieces, like this fabulous desk that I bought in the Paris flea markets. I love this. Again, the idea of the layering. I love the layering of the materials here. This desk actually has 3 different materials. It has this beautiful European oak wood. It has a travertine inlaid top. And in between the travertine stone pieces is actually a brass inlay. It is actually a magnificent little table. And even though it's a small proportion table, it has a lot of bang for the buck. It's a lot going on. So, also one of my biggest pet peeves about any room is designing it specifically for TV. So for me, I always like to sort of put the TV into a small corner out of the way and not make the focus and of the room as a central feature. So for me, in this room, I did what I did when I used to work for William Hodgins. We used to have a great trick where we used to hide the TV behind faux books. So here's my TV behind these bifolding doors. Isn't this fun? This is actually a great company called Deck Books in the UK, and you should check them out. They're really fantastic, and you can actually order your titles, believe it or not. And if you give them all their dimensions of the book sizes that you need, you can work with a mill worker to create these bifolding doors and hide your TV. It's a wonderful effect. One of the most important things for me in my interiors is to accessorize, and I travel around the world. Everybody knows that I go to Paris flea markets 4 or 5 times a year. Of course, this year has been an exception. Hopefully we'll get back into the Paris shopping again, but I love to shop the Paris flea markets to find these interesting objects like these fantastic, crazy little Venetian, ceramic pottery. This is actually a sign piece. And when I purchased it from the vendor in Paris, she said that she had bought it from an Italian dealer. And just beautiful, pieces of art glass. And, mixing things together for me is a really important way of making a home feel like a home. It's not just about having a pile of books. It's about having a good mixture of your favorite books with your favorite objects. Also, one of my favorite things, as you all know, is Greek key. And I always use the Greek key carpet. And actually, this is the original Greek key carpet. A lot of people know my Greek key carpet, and they see it on my Instagram posts, and I've been doing it a lot for my projects. But this is actually the very first one. And this was originally done as a silk and wool combination. And it's small, it's beautiful, but the ones that I've been making now are all wool, and they actually have a high-low pile, which gives it a little bit more character, which, I love it. So So here's my library, my little corner. I like to sit here in the evenings watching TV. It's so much fun. One of my favorite chairs in the room is this piece that actually came from Paris. It's a beautiful original silk velvet on this chair, if you can believe it. It's an 18th century piece. It's lovely. And then again, contrast of color is really important to me, so I love to mix in a little bit of that orange tone from the ceiling right on the chair. So there's my library. The connection back to my apartment is always very important, and it's always important to sort of design your spaces in sort of the idea of your confluence of your design. So what I was always keeping in mind is the amphiad. So amphiad of space is the sequence of space within your apartment, within your home. This apartment actually has a beautiful sequence of space, and it enters off of the dining room through these pair of doors, actually. These doors were actually added in. I put them in when I renovated this apartment. This was actually originally a wall, and the library was actually a bedroom. So I turned that into my beautiful library. And you can see how the layering of space, looking through from the dining room into the library, has such a nice depth of tone. And I love the amphiad. I love the French way of living. In Paris, all the apartments are room to room, which is called the amphiad. So this is the dining room, which is in the middle, and then I have the living room on the opposite side. And I think it's a great composition to have a good layering of color, a good layering of texture. I'm not afraid to mix textures, and I think that it's one of those things that people are afraid to do. But I do it all the time, and I love it. And I love to mix in a little bit of a modern, more contemporary pattern, like this diamond that was Chelsea Editions, one of my favorite fabrics, which is discontinued, unfortunately. But I do love it. And then infusing, lots of different patterns in pillows. I'm a big pillow fan, and I love to throw a lot of different things on, pillows in my spaces. Also, one of my greatest secrets of all time, don't tell anybody, is Persian carpets. When I purchase Persian carpets, I often like to actually put them upside down, believe it or not. And it gives them much more of an antique quality. It's so funny because for many, many years as I was growing up, I used to always admire the backside of the Persian carpets, thinking that was so much better. And when I bought these two carpets, the one actually here in my living room, and especially the one in the dining room one actually looks like a really precious antique, but the truth of it is actually it's on the backside, if you can believe it. And then I'm not afraid to mix in, a few modern elements into my spaces, like this contemporary glass top dining table. And I think it's important when you're designing interiors that you actually make your interiors feel like they are of today. Of course, I can appreciate a period interior, but when I'm designing a space, I always try and address the fact that I am actually designing it of today. And it's not to be too traditional, and throwing in a little bit of a contemporary piece gives it a nice push-pull. So there you have it. This is my fabulous amphiad of 3 rooms. So my living room, my dining room, and my favorite room, my library. Voila!